The planet Xyrath was unlike anything humans had seen before. Its skies glowed with strange colors, shifting from violet to gold in ways that seemed alive. Towering crystal spires rose from the ground, reflecting the light like 1,000 mirrors. Commander Jarek Thorne stepped off the human shuttle, his boots crunching on the glittering crystal dust. He had visited alien worlds before, but this place carried a weight he could not ignore. The Galactic Council had chosen Xyrath for the summit, and the stakes were higher than ever. As Jarek walked toward the central plaza, he saw the assembly of alien species. Some had 4 arms, others had shimmering scales, and a few floated slightly above the ground, using strange anti-gravity technology. All of them watched him with expressions that ranged from curiosity to disdain. Humans were still new to the council, considered clever but primitive, and Jarek felt their skepticism like a physical force pressing on his shoulders. At the center of the plaza, a platform had been constructed. Upon it lay Valera, the fallen alien queen. She was unlike any alien Jarek had ever encountered. Her long, iridescent limbs were restrained by energy bindings, and her eyes, a deep violet, glimmered with both pain and defiance. Despite her weakened state, she carried herself with dignity. The council had arranged her here as a display, a way to remind everyone that humans had little experience or power compared to ancient civilizations. Laughter erupted from the assembled delegates as a member of the council gestured toward the restrained queen. "Behold your challenge, humans," the alien said, its voice like scraping metal. "Can your kind even lift a fallen queen from her suffering?" Some humans shifted uncomfortably. They were not used to open mockery on this scale. Jarek, however, remained calm. He studied Valera, noticing details others missed. The energy bindings were crude, but the way they interfaced with her body suggested something far more complex than anyone realized. He could see a faint pulse, a rhythm that matched her heartbeat but also something else, something hidden beneath the surface. While the council continued to taunt, Jarek quietly assessed the environment. He noted the structural weaknesses of the platform, the energy flow of the bindings, and the alien technology in the surrounding plaza. The mocking aliens assumed he could only look and marvel, but in reality, his mind was already working. He had learned long ago that humans had a different kind of strength: patience, observation, and ingenuity. While others relied on power and intimidation, humans often succeeded by seeing what others ignored. One alien delegate, a tall figure with wings that glimmered like liquid silver, leaned closer to its companion. "He looks calm," it whispered. "Does he even understand what he faces?" Jarek did understand. He saw the queen's vulnerability and the opportunity hidden within it. The energy bindings were designed to restrain, but they also interfaced with her neural system. If handled correctly, they could be used to stabilize her instead of harming her. A surge of cautious excitement ran through him. The council believed they were showing humans a lesson in humility, but perhaps they had chosen the wrong human to underestimate. Minutes passed, and the laughter of the council began to fade as the audience sensed something subtle. Jarek crouched slightly, studying the queen's eyes. They flickered as if reaching for a connection. Not just for physical freedom, but for understanding. He felt a strange empathy, a link forming between them. The queen did not know him, but she seemed to recognize that he was not like the others. Unlike those who had mocked her, Jarek's mind was calm, his purpose clear. A murmur ran through the crowd as he stepped closer. The alien delegates exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from amusement to caution. Some whispered about human audacity. Others could not hide a flicker of curiosity. He reached out slowly, his hand hovering near the edge of the energy bindings, careful not to trigger any defensive reaction. Then he spoke, not loudly, but firmly. "I can help you," he said. "I don't want to hurt you. I want to make you stronger." For a moment, There was silence. The aliens were surprised that a human dared address the Queen directly, ignoring protocol and hierarchy. Valera's eyes widened slightly, registering his words. The faint pulse beneath her bindings began to stabilize as if reacting to his calm presence. She did not speak, but her gaze held a spark of hope, something the council had not expected. Jarek did not rush. He observed the patterns in the energy field, noting how it fluctuated with her heartbeat and subtle movements. The bindings were intricate, but not impenetrable. Using small gestures, he began to manipulate the control panel at the edge of the platform. The aliens had assumed he lacked the knowledge to interface with their technology, but humans were curious and adaptable. He was not following a manual. He was learning from observation and experimentation. Slowly, the energy bindings loosened. Valera's limbs twitched, then flexed with renewed strength. The council's laughter faltered as whispers ran through the crowd. Jarek's calm hands worked with precision, stabilizing the Queen, while the platform beneath her hummed with alien energy. For the first time, the audience saw not weakness, but collaboration between species. The fallen Queen looked at him with a mixture of surprise and respect. Her voice was soft but firm. "You do not fear me," she said, in a language Jarek could just barely understand through the neural interface. "You see what others cannot." He nodded. "I see the truth. You are not weak. You are not defeated. You are not defeated." A murmur of astonishment ran through the alien council. The humans around Jarek began to feel a surge of pride. They had been treated as inferiors for so long. But here was one of their own, standing calm in the face of ridicule and proving that intelligence, courage, and determination were not to be underestimated. Some delegates tried to maintain their composure, but the mood had shifted. The Queen, once a symbol of human inadequacy, now seemed almost serene, stabilized, and respected. Jarek had achieved what no one thought possible. He had lifted her from despair, not with brute strength, but with observation, intelligence, and a steady hand. Even as the council reeled from the unexpected turn, Jarek's mind was already working ahead. This was just the beginning. If he could understand the Queen and her technology, perhaps humans could demonstrate something far greater than anyone expected. Something beyond physical, might a display of ingenuity, empathy, and courage that could truly change the way the galaxy saw humanity. And as he stood there, the colors of Xyrath swirling around him, Jarek felt a quiet determination. The council had mocked him. They had brought out a fallen queen to make humans look small, but they had underestimated him and the human spirit. After stabilizing Valera, Jarek stepped back slightly, giving her room to move. The fallen queen, once a symbol of weakness, now seemed more alert, her violet eyes scanning the plaza with renewed awareness. The alien delegates, who had come expecting to mock humanity, now watched in silence, unsure of what to make of this unexpected turn. Whispers spread among them like a quiet wind, questioning whether the humans had more potential than they had believed. Jarek took a deep breath. He knew the council would not allow this small victory to stand without scrutiny. Every alien present had centuries of experience and knowledge far beyond humanity. And yet, here he was, standing calmly in the center of the plaza, the fallen queen slowly regaining strength under his guidance. He glanced at Valera, who gave him a slight nod, a gesture of trust. "Do not be afraid," he said softly, addressing both her and the crowd. "We are not here to destroy or dominate. We are here to understand. Strength is not only in power, sometimes it is in patience and thought." Valera's pulse, faintly visible through the energy bindings, began to synchronize more with his own rhythm. She stretched her limbs cautiously, testing the limits of her restored energy. Her fingers brushed against the control panel, and she instinctively understood the subtle adjustments Jarek had made. Humans might have been weaker physically, the Council believed, but their minds could move in ways others could not. Observation, analysis, and quick adaptability were tools that even the most advanced alien civilizations could underestimate. The tall, silver-winged delegate shifted uneasily, wings trembling slightly. What? What is he doing? It whispered to its neighbor. He is not strong, yet the Queen responds to him. How can this be? Jarek did not answer. He focused on Valira's energy patterns, noting the way her neural systems interacted with the bindings and the control interface. Slowly, he began to manipulate them in a controlled way, testing her response. Unlike the Council's assumptions, he was not attempting to dominate or control her. Instead, he was amplifying her own abilities, stabilizing them so she could function fully. Can you understand me? He asked gently. Valira's lips moved, forming words in her native language. The neural interface translated them into English in Jarek's mind. Yes, I feel your intent. You do not wish to harm me. You wish to help. Where? He nodded. Exactly. Together, we can accomplish more than they expect. They mocked us because they do not see the human way of thinking. But humans can solve problems in ways that seem impossible. Slowly, she tested her strength. Valira lifted one restrained arm, flexing it carefully. The energy field responded to her motion, stabilizing instead of resisting. A small, impressed murmur ran through the crowd of alien delegates. Jarek's strategy was clear. He would not fight them directly. He would demonstrate something far more powerful, the combination of human intelligence and cooperation. As the Queen grew stronger, Jarek observed how the surrounding environment responded. The crystal spires of Xyrath were naturally conductive, channeling ambient energy in unpredictable ways. He realized that by positioning Valira near certain spires, they could amplify her strength without triggering any instability. He motioned to her, pointing toward a cluster of crystals, and she understood immediately. With careful steps, she moved closer, the energy bindings adjusting automatically under Jarek's guidance. Watch closely, he said quietly to himself, and then to the humans around him. This is how humans can lift even the heaviest burdens, not with brute force, but with thinking and understanding. Some younger alien delegates, who had been silently observing, leaned forward, curious despite themselves. They had never seen a human operate with such focus under pressure. The older council members, however, tried to maintain an air of superiority, though subtle tension crept into their expressions. Valira reached the cluster of spires, her body stabilizing fully for the first time in what must have been months. Jarek guided her, suggesting small movements, adjusting energy flows, and carefully balancing power. The effect was immediate. The Queen's strength increased, her limbs moving freely as though the bindings had never existed. Gasps rose from the crowd. The alien Queen, once a symbol of defeat, now moved with grace and control. A whisper ran through the human delegation. He's doing it, one of them murmured. He's showing what humans can really do. Jarek felt a surge of quiet satisfaction. He was not yet finished, but this first step was crucial. He had earned the Queen's trust and demonstrated that humans could operate on a level the Council did not anticipate. The aliens' laughter had faded completely, replaced with cautious curiosity, disbelief, and, in some, grudging respect. Valira turned to him, her eyes gleaming with gratitude and determination. They mocked me as a symbol of human weakness, she said. Yet here you stand, lifting me higher than anyone dared. Jarek smiled faintly. Not just me. Humans think differently. We use our minds, our understanding, and sometimes that is stronger than anything else. We lift not just with strength, but with knowledge, patience, and care. The Queen's energy field pulsed in sync with his own movements, a silent dance of cooperation and balance. The aliens in the audience shifted uneasily. They had not expected to witness a human and an alien queen working in harmony to achieve what seemed impossible. Each movement was calculated, precise, and full of potential. The council realized, slowly, that they were watching a demonstration of a different kind of strength, one that humans excelled at in ways they did not yet comprehend. Minutes passed, and the mood in the plaza began to change. Murmurs of admiration spread among the younger delegates. Even some of the older ones could not hide a flicker of respect. Jarek knew that this was only the beginning. Humans had long been underestimated, and now, through patience and insight, he was beginning to shift perceptions. "Keep going," Valira said softly. Jarek nodded, feeling a quiet thrill. They were not yet at their full potential, but together, they had started something that could change the Council's view forever. Humans had been mocked, dismissed, and underestimated. But now, the first seeds of recognition had been planted. The crystal spires reflected the sun's shifting light, casting a kaleidoscope of colors over the plaza. Jarek adjusted his focus, guiding Valira in small, careful movements. With each step, each controlled lift, the Queen's confidence grew. And with it, the humans standing in the eyes of the galaxy. The Council had brought them here to be humiliated. Yet now, in quiet defiance, they were witnessing the power of human ingenuity and trust in action. And in that moment, Jarek understood something important. Strength was not only about what could be lifted with hands or machines. It was about lifting others, lifting understanding, and lifting hope. Humanity had underestimated no more. They were just beginning to show their true potential. Valira's limbs moved with increasing confidence, the restraints no longer limiting her as they had before. The crowd of alien delegates watched in stunned silence, unable to hide the awe in their expressions. Jarek stood beside her, calm and focused, guiding her with subtle gestures and carefully timed movements. Every action was deliberate. He did not force her. He lifted and supported, showing that humans could enhance the abilities of others through understanding and cooperation. The plaza was still alive with tension. Whispers ran like currents through the alien audience. "What is this?" A tall, scaled delegate murmured, its eyes narrowing in disbelief. "How can a human, supposedly so weak, do this with a queen?" The older delegates frowned, their confidence shaken. They had come to mock humans, to display them as inferior and naive. Now, they were realizing that humans had a type of strength they had never considered, a combination of observation, thought, and empathy. Jarek spoke quietly to Valira. "We need to test her limits carefully," he said, adjusting his position slightly. "The Council believes she is powerless, but we can show them a better way." Valira nodded. Her pulse, once erratic under the bindings, now flowed smoothly. Energy from the crystal spires around them interacted with her neural system, amplified by Jarek's careful guidance. With each motion, her strength grew. And with it, the quiet confidence of the humans in the plaza. The first demonstration was simple yet shocking. Valira lifted one of the massive energy barriers surrounding the Council platform. It was a weight far beyond what any human could normally move alone. The aliens gasped, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Their confidence in human weakness began to crumble. Jarek stayed calm, supporting her by guiding the energy flow and making tiny adjustments to the bindings. She lifted it higher, then rotated it gently, showing not just power but precision. "You see," Jarek said softly to a human nearby, "we can do more than they think. It is not just strength, it is understanding and control." The younger alien delegates leaned forward, their curiosity evident. They whispered among themselves, questioning everything they had assumed about humanity. A few even dared to clap softly, admiring the cooperation between species. The older council members tried to hide their concern, but the shifts in their expressions betrayed the unease creeping into their minds. Valira moved to another part of the platform. Jarek directed her attention to a collapsed energy bridge that had been part of the plaza's defensive system. The council had assumed it was useless to her, a symbol of failure. With careful coordination, Jarek guided her through a series of subtle adjustments. Valira grasped the unstable energy beams, lifting and balancing them with precision. The bridge, which had been a crumbling mess, stabilized completely, now glowing brighter than before. The crowd erupted in quiet gasps. No alien delegate had ever seen such synchronization between human and alien in their entire history. Jarek was not merely assisting her, he was complementing her abilities, using human insight to elevate what the Queen could do. This was a new form of strength, one that could not be measured in muscle or weaponry, but in creativity, understanding, and courage. Valira's voice echoed faintly through the neural interface. I did not know humans could think this way. You lift me higher than any of my own kind ever could. Jarek smiled faintly, glancing around at the council. Humans lift differently. We do not rely only on what we see. We think, we adapt, we anticipate. That is how we overcome what others believe impossible. The aliens around them shifted uneasily. Some muttered to one another, struggling to reconcile what they had assumed about humanity with the reality they were witnessing. A few younger delegates even looked impressed, their eyes reflecting admiration and curiosity. They were beginning to see that humans, far from being weak, had a type of power that was subtle but extremely effective. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A structural section of the plaza, damaged in a previous storm, began to tremble under the weight of Valira's movements. If it collapsed, it could harm the Queen and humiliate the humans in front of the council. Jarek acted without hesitation. He adjusted the energy flow, using his understanding of the crystal spires to stabilize the structure. Valira responded instantly, shifting her weight in sync with his instructions. Together, they lifted the collapsing section, holding it steady in a display that combined precision, timing, and courage. A wave of astonishment passed through the council. No alien had ever coordinated with a human in this way, achieving feats that went beyond any known standard of power. The plaza, once a place of ridicule and mockery, now became a stage for human ingenuity and the rising strength of an unlikely alliance. Valira paused for a moment, her violet eyes scanning the crowd. They mocked me to shame you, she said softly. But together, we show them that strength is not measured by age, size, or history. It is measured by courage, by understanding, by the will to rise higher than anyone expects. Jarek nodded. Exactly. The council thought they could break us, but they underestimated the human mind. We lift, not just with hands or machines, but with thought, courage, and trust. He gestured subtly toward a set of unstable energy pillars surrounding the council platform. The Queen understood immediately. Carefully, under Jarek's guidance, she lifted the pillars, aligning them in perfect balance. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The plaza glowed with a renewed energy. The structures stabilized, and the crowd could not hide their astonishment. Even the older delegates, long confident in their superiority, began to shift in their seats. They whispered among themselves, realizing that the humans before them were achieving feats that should have been impossible. The mocking tone that had dominated the summit moments before had vanished completely, replaced by disbelief, curiosity, and in some, reluctant respect. Jarek felt a quiet satisfaction. This was exactly what he had hoped to achieve. The council had tried to belittle humans, to make them appear weak and insignificant. Instead, humans were rising not with force, but with intelligence, observation, and courage. They were showing that strength came in many forms, and that sometimes the most underestimated species could accomplish the most extraordinary feats. Valera lifted her head, her posture now confident and strong. "You have shown me a truth I had forgotten," she said. "Together, we are more than any of them imagined. You lift not just me, but the idea of what humanity can achieve." Jarek's eyes scanned the plaza. Humans around him were quietly inspired, their confidence growing as they witnessed the impossible. The aliens were forced to reconsider their assumptions. This was not just a demonstration of power, it was a statement, a message that humans, though young in the galaxy, possessed a unique type of strength that could not be measured in numbers or history. As the sunlight of Xyrath shifted across the crystal spires, casting a brilliant glow over the plaza, Jarek realized something important. The humans had begun to lift more than just the Queen. They were lifting their own potential, proving to the galaxy that they could rise higher than anyone expected. And in doing so, they had begun to rewrite what it meant to be human among the stars. The plaza had grown silent after the demonstration of human and alien cooperation. The once mocking council stared, their pride shaken by what they had just witnessed. Yet not everyone welcomed this shift. Some older delegates, protective of their centuries of power and experience, whispered among themselves, plotting subtle ways to disrupt what they now saw as a threat to their authority. Jarek sensed it immediately. Though he did not know the full plan, he could feel tension in the energy around the plaza. Valera moved beside him, her body fully restored and her energy flowing steadily. But even she seemed aware of a subtle unease among some council members. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the plaza. Small energy fluctuations appeared around the edges of the council platform. The humans and younger aliens who had cheered moments before looked around in confusion. Jarek's instincts told him this was no accident. Someone was attempting to destabilize the platform, possibly to humiliate the humans or harm Valera. "Stay calm," Jarek said, crouching slightly and analyzing the energy waves. "We can handle this." Valera nodded, moving closer to him. Her trust was complete now, and together, they began to synchronize their energy fields. Jarek guided her motions, subtly directing her to counteract the instability. They moved as one, their steps and gestures precise, balancing the fluctuating energy like a perfectly coordinated dance. The first wave of disruption struck a section of the plaza trembled violently, threatening to collapse. Alien delegates gasped, but Jarek and Valera responded instantly. With careful adjustments and coordinated movement, they lifted the structure, holding it steady while sending energy back into the failing pillars. The crowd watched, wide-eyed, as the humans demonstrated control over what should have been destructive chaos. "Focus on the edges," Jarek instructed softly, pointing to the trembling spires. "We need to stabilize the foundation before it spreads." Valera understood immediately. She moved with precision, lifting and adjusting the pillars as Jarek guided her. Each movement required careful timing and trust. One wrong step could have caused the entire structure to collapse, but their coordination was flawless. The plaza, once threatened with disaster, began to glow with stability, the energy flowing smoothly again. The council murmured among themselves, some trying to maintain composure, while others were visibly shaken. Their plan to humiliate humans had failed, replaced by a demonstration of ingenuity and courage that no one could deny. The younger delegates, watching with fascination, began to whisper excitedly about what they were witnessing. Humans were not just surviving, they were mastering the situation. Jarek took a moment to scan the plaza, looking for any other potential threats. He noticed small energy spikes at several corners of the platform, subtle but dangerous if left unchecked. With a nod to Valera, he guided her toward the first spike. She lifted a nearby energy conduit, redirecting the power back into the crystal spires. The spike dissipated, leaving the plaza stable once again. A few of the older council members exchanged worried glances. They had expected humans to falter under pressure, but instead, the humans were adapting, thinking, and solving problems faster than anyone had anticipated. The balance of the plaza, the energy spikes, and even Valira's own strength had been manipulated with skill and precision. For the first time, the council faced the reality that humans had a unique advantage: creativity under pressure. But the challenge was not over. Another, larger tremor shook the platform, stronger than before. The ground beneath them shifted, and cracks appeared along the edges of the council dais. Some delegates tried to move away, but the instability spread quickly. Jarek knew they had only seconds to act. "Now," he said firmly. "We lift together. Trust me." Valira extended her arms, channeling her energy in perfect harmony with Jarek's instructions. They moved to the center of the shaking platform, balancing the largest structural section that had begun to collapse. With careful coordination, they lifted it higher, redirecting the stress through the crystal spires and back into the plaza's energy network. The tremor slowed, then stopped entirely, leaving the structure stable and intact. The crowd erupted not in mockery, but in astonishment. The plaza, which had moments before threatened disaster, now stood perfectly balanced, glowing with renewed energy. Humans and aliens alike stared in disbelief, realizing that the humans had not only survived the sabotage but had mastered it. Valira looked at Jarek, her expression a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "I have never felt such control," she said softly. "You see what others cannot. You lift more than structures. You lift confidence, trust, and hope." Jarek smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his brow. "Strength is not just physical," he replied. "It is thinking, adjusting, and staying calm when everything around you is falling apart. That is how humans lift higher than anyone expects." The older delegates, who had orchestrated the sabotage, were forced to retreat quietly. Their attempt to humiliate the humans had failed spectacularly. The younger delegates, inspired by what they had just witnessed, began to cheer softly, signaling respect and admiration for Jarek and Valira. Even some of the cautious older members nodded subtly, recognizing the skill, courage, and determination required to achieve what they had just seen. As the plaza stabilized, Jarek allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. Humanity had been underestimated time and again by the galaxy's older civilizations, dismissed as primitive and weak. Yet in this single display, humans had shown that their true strength lay not in size or technology alone, but in thought, observation, courage, and the ability to work together under pressure. Valira extended a hand to him, a gesture of complete trust. "You have lifted me higher than anyone else ever could," she said. "Not only physically but in spirit. You have proven that humans are capable of more than the Council imagined." Jarek nodded, feeling a quiet pride. "We lift each other," he said. "That is how humans rise. Not alone, but together." The crystal spires of Zerath reflected the shifting sunlight, casting vibrant colors across the plaza. The audience could see clearly now the result of human ingenuity and cooperation with an alien queen. What had begun as a moment of humiliation for humanity had transformed into a stunning display of capability and courage. The council members who had doubted humans now faced an undeniable truth. They had misjudged an entire species. Valira's restored power and confidence, combined with Jarek's calm and clever guidance, left a lasting impression. They had survived sabotage, stabilized the plaza, and lifted structures that no one had believed a human could handle. The lesson was clear. Humans, underestimated though they might be, could rise to challenges with skill, intelligence, and courage that no one should ignore. The plaza remained quiet as the dust settled. The energy flows smooth and steady once again. The council had no choice but to recognize what they had just witnessed. Humans had been mocked and challenged, but in rising to meet those challenges, They had displayed a strength and ingenuity that could not be denied. Jarek stood tall beside Valira, both of them surveying the plaza with calm confidence. Around them, humans felt a renewed sense of pride, while aliens began to reconsider the true potential of a species they had long underestimated. Together, human and alien had shown the galaxy a simple truth. Strength was not always measured by history, size, or experience. It was measured by courage, creativity, and the willingness to rise higher than anyone thought possible. The plaza of Zyrath gleamed under the shifting sunlight, the crystal spires casting brilliant reflections over the gathered delegates. Silence lingered in the air, heavy with tension and wonder. The once mocking council members now looked on with uncertain eyes, realizing that everything they thought they knew about humans was being challenged. Valira stood tall, her energy flowing steadily, no longer the fallen queen who had been paraded as a symbol of weakness. Beside her, Jarek remained calm, yet his eyes sparkled with quiet determination. Together, they had stabilized the plaza, lifted structures thought impossible to move, and demonstrated a level of coordination and intelligence that no one had anticipated. But Jarek knew that their work was not finished. The council still needed to understand the true message. Humanity could rise above expectations, not with violence, but with courage, creativity, and trust. A murmured discussion rippled through the delegates. Some whispered doubts, while others debated quietly among themselves, clearly unsettled by what they had witnessed. Jarek could sense that not all hostility had disappeared, but the tone had shifted. There was curiosity now, a cautious respect that had not existed before. Valira spoke, her voice clear and steady, amplified by the neural interface that allowed all delegates to hear her words. This display was not for mockery, nor to show domination. It is to demonstrate a simple truth. Strength comes in many forms. Humans lift, not only with their hands, but with their minds and hearts. They lift others, and in doing so, they lift themselves. Her words drew immediate attention. The younger delegates, many of whom had been inspired by the previous demonstrations, nodded in agreement. Even some of the older council members, who had long clung to the belief that humans were weak and inexperienced, could not hide a flicker of admiration. Jarek saw it in their eyes, the realization that humans possessed a kind of power that was subtle yet extraordinary. The Queen gestured toward the human delegates standing near the platform. "You have underestimated them," she said. "I have seen humans falter, yes, but I have also seen them rise higher than any other species expected. They have courage, ingenuity, and a willingness to act in ways that surprise even the most experienced. They are not to be dismissed." Jarek stepped forward. "We do not seek to dominate or replace anyone," he said. "Our strength is in understanding, in solving problems, and in lifting each other. That is what makes humanity capable of achieving the impossible. And we are only beginning to show what we can do." Well, a low hum of agreement rose from some of the delegates, while others looked uneasy. They had been sure that humans would fail, that the fallen queen would remain a symbol of weakness. Instead, the humans had performed feats that challenged centuries of expectation, displaying cooperation, precision, and intelligence in ways that no one had predicted. Suddenly, the plaza trembled again, not from sabotage this time, but from a natural energy surge that pulsed through the crystal spires. The council gasped, but Jarek did not hesitate. He turned to Valira. "We can handle this together," he said calmly. She nodded, stepping into position beside him. Together, they analyzed the flow of energy, identifying the points where the surge could cause instability. With careful movements and precise coordination, they began to channel the energy, redirecting it through the plaza and the crystal spires. Every action required focus and trust, each adjustment measured and deliberate. The energy surge threatened to topple one of the main support spires, But Jarek and Valera acted quickly. Using their combined knowledge and intuition, they lifted the spire just enough to balance it against the flow, stabilizing the plaza once more. The crowd watched in awe as the humans demonstrated a level of control and calm under pressure that few had expected. When the surge finally passed, the plaza was more stable than before, glowing with energy that reflected the successful coordination. The council could not deny what they had seen. Humans had taken a threat and turned it into a demonstration of skill, courage, and ingenuity. Valera turned to the council, her violet eyes bright with confidence. You have mocked us, thinking humans could not rise. Yet here they stand, lifting not only me, but the perception of their entire species. Do you see now what humanity is capable of? Some of the younger delegates applauded softly, moved by her words and the demonstration they had just witnessed. A few older members nodded quietly, acknowledging the humans' accomplishments even as their pride wrestled with the reality before them. The message was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Jarek took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. We do not lift to show superiority, he said. We lift to solve problems, to help others, and to face challenges with courage and creativity. That is what humans do, and that is what makes us strong. The plaza fell silent for a moment, as if absorbing the truth of his words. Valera's energy pulsed gently, in harmony with his, a symbol of the trust and cooperation that had made this moment possible. The humans standing near the platform felt a surge of pride. They had been underestimated, mocked, and challenged, and yet they had risen to the occasion, proving their worth not through aggression, but through intelligence, determination, and empathy. The council, now fully aware of the humans' capabilities, began to shift in their perspective. The older delegates who had planned the sabotage looked uneasy, realizing that their attempts to humiliate humanity had failed. The younger delegates, inspired by the display, whispered excitedly among themselves, recognizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary. Valera stepped forward, addressing both humans and aliens alike. Today, we have seen what is possible when we trust each other and work together. Humans have lifted higher than anyone expected, not by strength alone, but by thought, courage, and compassion. This is a lesson for all of us. Do not underestimate those who seem young, inexperienced, or different. Their potential is greater than you may realize. Jarek nodded, feeling a sense of quiet triumph. They had come to the council as representatives of humanity. And now, through patience, intelligence, and cooperation, they had rewritten what it meant to be human in the eyes of the galaxy. The sunlight reflected off the crystal spires, bathing the plaza in a warm glow. Delegates from many species looked on in awe and respect. Humans had been mocked, challenged, and underestimated. Yet they had lifted themselves and others to heights no one had predicted. Their ingenuity, courage, and determination had proven the truth that Jarek had long believed. Humanity could rise higher than anyone expected, and in doing so, they could inspire the entire galaxy. Valera turned to Jarek, a faint smile on her lips. You have lifted me, yes, she said, but more importantly, you have lifted the idea of what humans can achieve. You have shown that even the smallest or youngest among us can rise above expectations with courage and intelligence. Jarek smiled back. We lift together, he said. Humans lift each other, and in doing so, we lift the universe a little higher too. Around them, the humans and aliens in the plaza stood quietly, reflecting on the events they had witnessed. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. They had proven their worth not through domination or brute force, but through patience, observation, courage, and collaboration. The fallen queen, once a symbol of weakness, now stood as a symbol of what could be achieved when humans rose to the challenge. And as the sun set over the glittering crystal spires of Zyrath, casting golden light across the plaza, one truth became undeniable. Humans had lifted higher than anyone had ever expected, and the galaxy would never forget it.